The stars looked different from the bridge of the UES Discovery. Captain Jake Morrison stared out at the vast emptiness of space and felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was humanity's first real journey beyond their own solar system. They had traveled farther from Earth than any human before them. "Captain, we are picking up something strange on the sensors," said Communications Officer Amy Johnson. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the worry in it. Amy had been with the crew for 3 years, and she never got worried easily. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked as he walked over to her station. The bridge was small and cramped compared to the military ships back home. But it was all they had for this mission. "Ships, sir. Big ones. Much bigger than anything we have ever built." Amy's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "They are coming toward us fast." Chief Engineer Pete Collins looked up from his workstation. "How fast is fast?" "Faster than should be possible," Amy replied. "These readings don't make sense. According to our computers, they should not be able to move that quickly." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Discovery was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had some basic weapons, but nothing that could fight a real battle. Their mission was to explore and make contact with other life in the galaxy. Nobody had expected them to find anything this advanced. "Red alert," Jake ordered. "All hands, to battle stations." The warning lights began flashing throughout the small ship. Commander Lisa Brooks rushed onto the bridge. She was Jake's second in command and one of the best tactical officers in the human fleet. "Captain, what's our situation?" "Unknown ships approaching fast," Jake said. "We're about to find out if we're alone in the universe or not." The main screen flickered and suddenly showed 5 massive ships. They were sleek and silver, at least 10 times larger than the Discovery. Strange blue lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that hurt to look at. "My God," whispered Amy. "They're beautiful and terrible at the same time." A voice filled the bridge. It spoke perfect English, but with a cold, mechanical tone. "Unknown vessel, you have entered the territory of the Zelkarian Empire. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake looked at Lisa. She shook her head slightly. They both knew that powering down meant capture or death. The human race had just made first contact with an alien civilization, and it was not going well. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Discovery," Jake said into his communicator. "We are explorers from the planet Earth. We come in peace and mean no harm to your empire." "Your intentions are irrelevant," the voice replied. "You will comply or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to decide." Pete Collins was working frantically at his station. "Captain, I'm picking up massive energy readings from those ships. Whatever weapons they have, they could turn us into space dust without breaking a sweat." 20 seconds, the alien voice announced. Lisa stepped forward. "Captain, we can't just give up. If we surrender, they'll learn everything about Earth, about humanity. We can't let that happen." Jake knew she was right. If these aliens were hostile, surrendering would doom not just his crew, but all of humanity. Earth would be helpless against technology this advanced. 10 seconds. "Amy, send a message back to Earth," Jake ordered. "Tell them what we found. Tell them to prepare for the worst." "Message sent, Captain," Amy replied quickly. 5 seconds. "All crew, this is the captain," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "We are about to engage a superior enemy. Fight well and fight hard. Make them remember that humans do not go quietly into the night." The alien voice counted down to 0 and then said, "Your time is up. Prepare to be destroyed." The largest alien ship fired a bright blue beam at the Discovery. Pete's hands flew over his controls as he diverted all power to the shields. The beam hit and the whole ship shook violently. "Shields down to 60%, Pete reported. "One more hit like that and we're finished." But something strange happened. Instead of firing again, the alien ship seemed to pause. Jake could hear confused voices speaking in an unknown language over the communication channel. "Amy, what are they saying?" Jake asked. Amy was working to translate the alien language. "I think they're confused, Captain. They're saying something about unexpected results and error messages." Lisa was studying the tactical display. "Captain, I think their computers expected us to surrender or run away. When we didn't do either, it broke their battle plan." Jake realized this might be their only chance. "Pete, can we ram one of their ships?" "Captain, that's suicide," Pete replied. "Maybe, but it might be the only way to hurt them and send a message back to their empire. Show them that humans don't give up." Lisa nodded. "He's right. If we're going to die anyway, let's make it count." Pete began routing all available power to the engines. "Engines at maximum power, Captain," picking the smallest ship as our target. The Discovery turned toward the nearest alien vessel and accelerated as fast as it could go. The alien ship seemed frozen, their computers unable to process what the humans were doing. "This is impossible behavior," came the confused alien voice over the communicator. "Our models cannot predict their actions." The Discovery struck the alien ship near its engine section. The explosion lit up space like a small star. Both ships were destroyed instantly, but the alien vessel was badly damaged and began drifting away from the battle. In the final moments before the Discovery was destroyed, Jake heard Amy's voice over the radio. "Earth Control, this is the Discovery. We have made contact with a hostile alien empire. They are more advanced than us, but their computers cannot understand human behavior. Use this knowledge. Make them pay for every inch. Humanity will not bow down to anyone." The last thing Jake saw was the remaining alien ships retreating, their perfect formation broken by confusion and fear. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Zelkarian Empire had encountered something they could not understand or control. Humanity had fired the first shot in a war that would shake the galaxy. The message from the Discovery reached Earth 3 weeks later. Admiral Helen Davis sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the Pentagon, listening to Amy Johnson's final transmission for the 5th time. Around the table sat the most important military leaders on Earth. "Play it again," said General Roy Mason, his face grim. He was the head of Earth's defense forces and had spent his whole career preparing for war, but never a war like this. Amy's voice filled the room once more. "Earth Control, this is the Discovery. We have made contact with a hostile alien empire. They are more advanced than us, but their computers cannot understand human behavior. Use this knowledge. Make them pay for every inch. Humanity will not bow down to anyone." Admiral Davis turned off the recording. "That's all we have. 5 ships destroyed, including our own. But they managed to damage one of the alien vessels before they died." "How is that possible?" asked Dr. Karen Price, the head of Earth's Science Division. "If these aliens are so advanced, how did a small exploration ship hurt them?" General Mason leaned forward. "Because they weren't expecting us to fight back. Most species probably surrender when they see those big ships. Our people didn't." "Need to know more about these Zelkarians," Admiral Davis said. "Dr. Price, what do we know from the wreckage?" 3 days after the Discovery's destruction, a small escape pod had been found drifting in space. Inside was pilot Steve Carter, badly injured but alive. He had escaped from the Discovery just before it rammed the alien ship. "Steve brought back some pieces of alien metal and electronics," Dr. Price said. "We've been studying them day and night. The technology is incredible, but there's something strange about it." "Strange how?" asked General Mason. "It's too perfect," Dr. Price explained. "Everything follows exact patterns. Their computers think in straight lines. They expect everyone to act logically and predictably. When humans don't follow those patterns, their systems get confused." Admiral Davis stood up and walked to the large screen on the wall. It showed a map of nearby star systems. "So you're saying their weakness is our strength?" "Exactly," Dr. Price said. "Humans are chaotic. We make decisions based on emotions, gut feelings, and sometimes we do things that make no logical sense. Their computers can't predict that kind of behavior." "General," Mason smiled for the first time since hearing about the Discovery. "Then we're going to give them more chaos than they can handle." Meanwhile, in a star system far from Earth, the Zelkarian Empire was having its own emergency meeting. Emperor Kethavor sat on his crystal throne, listening to reports from his military commanders. The throne room was vast and cold, filled with holographic displays showing the Empire's territory. Explain to me again how a primitive ship damaged one of our cruisers, the Emperor said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. General Moxton stepped forward. He was the Empire's top military strategist and had never lost a battle in 300 years of service. Your Majesty, our battle computers could not predict their actions. They behaved in ways that our models said were impossible. Impossible? The Emperor's eyes glowed brighter. We have conquered 400 worlds. Our computers have predicted the behavior of every species we have encountered. How can one primitive race be different? Admiral Yeltara activated a holographic display. Watch this recording from the battle, Your Majesty. The hologram showed the final moments of the discovery. Instead of surrendering or trying to escape, the human ship turned and rammed the Zelkarian vessel. This makes no sense, said the Emperor. Why would they sacrifice themselves? They had no chance of winning. That's exactly the problem, General Moxton replied. They didn't care about winning. They cared about fighting. Our computers cannot process that kind of thinking. Back on Earth, preparations for war were moving quickly. Steve Carter sat in a hospital bed, telling his story to anyone who would listen. His left arm was in a cast and he had burns on his face, but his eyes were bright with determination. They didn't expect us to fight, Steve said to the group of military officers around his bed. When Captain Morrison decided to ram their ship, you should have seen the confusion on their communications. They kept saying their computers were showing error messages. Captain Ben Walsh was taking notes. He commanded Earth's largest space defense fleet and would be responsible for protecting the planet when the aliens came back. So if we can stay unpredictable, we have a chance? More than a chance, Steve replied. We have an advantage. They're used to fighting enemies who think like them. We don't think like anyone else in the galaxy. Dr. Price was working around the clock in her laboratory. The alien technology was fascinating but also dangerous. Every piece of equipment seemed designed to work perfectly with every other piece. There was no room for improvisation or creative thinking. Look at this, she said to her assistant, Dr. Alan Ross. She held up a piece of alien metal that glowed with soft blue light. This is their hull material. It's incredibly strong, but only against certain types of attacks. If you hit it in an unexpected way, it becomes brittle. What kind of unexpected way? Dr. Ross asked. Random impacts, chaotic energy patterns, anything that doesn't follow a mathematical formula. Their whole civilization is built on order and predictability. Chaos is like poison to their systems. News of the alien threat spread across Earth. Instead of panic, there was anger. Humans had just taken their first steps into the galaxy and some alien empire wanted to destroy them. That wasn't going to happen without a fight. Factory workers stayed late to build new weapons. Scientists worked without sleep to develop new technologies. Soldiers trained harder than ever before. The whole planet was preparing for war. General Mason stood on the deck of the new battleship UES Defiance, watching as more ships joined the fleet. They weren't as advanced as the alien vessels, but they didn't need to be. They just needed to be unpredictable. Sir, said Captain Walsh, walking up to join him. The other ships are reporting ready for combat. When do you think they'll come? General Mason looked out at the stars. Soon. And when they do, they're going to learn that humans don't follow anyone's rules but our own. The war was about to begin. The Zelkarian war fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system 6 months after the Discovery incident. Fleet Admiral Korvash commanded 50 of the Empire's most powerful warships. Each ship was the size of a small city and carried weapons that could destroy planets. Begin the final assault, Admiral Korvash ordered from his command ship. Our computers have analyzed human behavior patterns from the previous encounter. We are prepared for their primitive tactics. The massive alien fleet moved toward Mars, where human defenders waited. Colonel Rick Hayes stood on the bridge of the defense station orbiting the red planet. Around him, his officers watched the approaching enemy ships with nervous excitement. They're beautiful, said Commander Julie Wood, staring at the holographic display. And terrifying. Beauty won't save them, Colonel Hayes replied. Remember what we learned from Steve Carter. They expect us to think like them. We're not going to do that. The human defense fleet was much smaller than the Zelkarian force. Earth had managed to build 20 new warships in 6 months, but they were tiny compared to the alien vessels. What they lacked in size, they planned to make up for in unpredictability. "All ships, this is Colonel Hayes," he announced over the communication system. "Today we show these aliens that humans don't follow their rules. Every captain is free to ignore orders if they have a better idea. Be creative, be chaotic, and make them regret coming to our home." The first Zelkarian ship fired its main weapon at the Mars defense station. The beam was bright enough to blind anyone looking directly at it. Colonel Hayes ordered all power to the shields, but everyone knew the station couldn't survive a direct hit from that kind of weapon. Then something unexpected happened. Captain Tony Clark's small fighter squadron flew directly into the path of the alien beam. Their ships were destroyed instantly, but the explosion scattered the energy beam in all directions. The defense station survived. "Impossible," came a confused voice over the alien communication channel. "Our computers show this tactic has a 0% chance of success." "That's because your computers don't understand sacrifice," Colonel Hayes said into his communicator, knowing the aliens were listening. "Tony and his pilots died to save the rest of us. Your machines can't calculate the value of that." Commander Julie Wood was coordinating the defense of the outer system. Her ships were using tactics that made no logical sense. Some vessels fought while flying backward. Others fired their weapons randomly into space, creating fields of dangerous debris. A few ships even rammed smaller asteroid rocks toward the alien fleet. "Ma'am, the aliens are having trouble targeting us," reported Lieutenant Carl Ross from his fighter. "Their weapon systems keep malfunctioning. It's like they can't handle our random movement patterns." "Keep it up," Julie replied. "The more confused we make them, the better our chances." The battle for Mars lasted 12 hours. Human ships fought with desperate creativity, while the Zelkarian fleet struggled with system failures and targeting errors. Every time their computers tried to predict human behavior, the humans did something different. Dr. Karen Price watched the battle from Earth, analyzing the alien response patterns. "They're overloading their own systems," she told Admiral Davis. "Their computers are trying so hard to predict our actions that they're causing cascade failures in their technology." "Is that good for us?" Admiral Davis asked. "Very good. Their ships are becoming less effective the longer the battle continues." In space near Mars, Captain Sam Newman led a small stealth mission behind enemy lines. His ship was tiny and barely armed, but it carried something more valuable than weapons. The crew included demolitions expert Tony Clark's brother Danny Clark and linguist Dr. Beth Morgan, who had learned to speak some Zelkarian language. "There," Dr. Morgan said, pointing to a massive command ship in the center of the alien fleet. "That's their flagship. If we can get close enough, we might be able to plant our surprise inside their computer system." The surprise was a virus that Dr. Price had created. It wasn't designed to destroy the alien computers, but to make them think in random patterns. If it worked, the Zelkarian ships would become as unpredictable as human vessels. Captain Newman's ship slipped through the alien formation undetected. The Zelkarian sensors were designed to spot large threats, not small ships behaving erratically. Danny Clark prepared the virus upload while Dr. Morgan worked to access the alien computer network. "I'm in," Dr. Morgan announced. "Uploading the virus now." The effect was immediate. Across the Zelkarian fleet, ships began firing in random directions. Some vessels stopped responding to orders entirely. Others started moving in circles or spinning without control. "What is happening to our fleet?" Admiral Korvash demanded from his command bridge. "Unknown malfunction," his computer officer replied. "All systems are operating within normal parameters, but the ships are not responding correctly to commands." Lieutenant Carl Ross saw his chance. The young fighter pilot had a reputation for breaking rules and taking crazy risks. Now those traits made him the perfect weapon against an enemy that valued order above all else. "This is Lieutenant Ross to all fighters," he announced. "I'm going to try something really stupid. If it works, follow my lead. If it doesn't, remember me as the guy who went out fighting." Carl flew his small fighter directly at Admiral Korvash's command ship. The massive vessel's defense systems tried to target him, but the virus was making their targeting computers act randomly. Instead of precise defensive fire, the ship's weapons fired wildly in all directions. Carl reached the command ship's hull and fired all his weapons at a single point. The explosion was tiny compared to the size of the alien vessel, but it hit exactly the right spot. The ship's main power system overloaded and began shutting down. "Impossible," Admiral Korvash said as his ship's lights flickered. "How did a primitive fighter penetrate our defenses?" "Because you expected him to act logically," came Colonel Hayes's voice over the communication system. "Humans don't always do the logical thing. Sometimes we do the right thing, even when it doesn't make sense." The Zelkarian fleet began to retreat. Half their ships were malfunctioning from the virus, and the other half couldn't function properly without computer assistance. For the first time in their empire's history, they had been defeated by an inferior force. As the alien ships jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared, the human defenders cheered. They had won the first real battle of the war. But Colonel Hayes knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would be back, and next time they would be better prepared. "All ships, this is Colonel Hayes," he announced. "We won today because we stayed unpredictable. The war isn't over. We need to keep being creative, keep being chaotic, and keep showing them that humans don't give up." The defense of Earth's solar system was complete, but the real war was just beginning. News of the defeat at Mars spread across the Zelkarian Empire like wildfire. For 3,000 years, the Empire had never lost a major battle. Now a primitive human force had destroyed half their best fleet and sent the rest running home in confusion. Emperor Kethavor sat in his throne room, surrounded by panicked advisors and frightened generals. The holographic displays showed rebellions breaking out on dozens of worlds. Species that had been quiet slaves for centuries were suddenly fighting back. "The Andromedans have seized 3 star systems," reported General Korthek, his voice shaking. "The Rigelians have destroyed our mining stations. Even the peaceful Centaurians are refusing to pay tribute." "How is this possible?" the Emperor demanded. "These species have been loyal for generations." "They heard about the human victory," General Korthek replied. "Word is spreading that the mighty Zelkarian Empire can be defeated. Our subjects are no longer afraid of us." On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Susan Price was leading the first human offensive deep into Zelkarian territory. Her fleet was small but determined. The mission was to free as many enslaved worlds as possible and show them that the Empire could be beaten. "Captain Dan Foster, take your ships to the Andromedan system," Admiral Price ordered from her flagship. "Help them complete their rebellion. Show them how we fight." Captain Foster nodded. His strike force included Engineer Paula Stone and Intelligence Officer Chris Turner. They had been studying Zelkarian tactics for months, learning how to turn the Empire's own technology against them. "Remember," Captain Foster told his crew as they approached the Andromedan homeworld, "we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. Every species in the galaxy is watching to see if the Empire can really be defeated." The Andromedans had been slaves for 800 years. Their world was beautiful, but covered with Zelkarian mining equipment and control stations. When Captain Foster's ships arrived, they found the Andromedans fighting desperately against Imperial forces with primitive weapons. "This is Captain Foster of the human fleet," he announced on all frequencies. "We're here to help. Fight like humans fight. Be unpredictable, be creative, make them fear you." The Andromedans had never seen tactics like the ones the humans used. Instead of forming neat battle lines, human ships darted around randomly. Instead of targeting the strongest enemy vessels first, they attacked randomly selected targets. Instead of following military protocol, each captain made their own decisions. Engineer Paula Stone had worked with Dr. Karen Price to create new versions of the computer virus. This time, instead of making Zelkarian systems act randomly, the virus made them completely shut down. Uploading the virus to their command center now, Paula reported as her small team infiltrated a Zelkarian control station on the planet's surface. Within minutes, the Imperial forces on the Andromedan world lost all communication with their ships. Their weapons stopped working. Their transport vehicles shut down. The rebellion that had been failing suddenly became a victory. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human advisors taught enslaved species how to fight unpredictably. The virus spread from system to system, shutting down Zelkarian technology. Most importantly, the idea spread that the Empire was not invincible. Back in the Zelkarian capital, Emperor Kethivor was facing the worst crisis in his empire's history. Half his territory was in rebellion. His fleets were afraid to engage human forces because they couldn't predict what the humans would do next. His computer systems were failing faster than they could be repaired. "We must make peace with the humans," advised his oldest counselor, an ancient Zelkarian named Velkar. "Our empire is crumbling. If we continue this war, we will lose everything." "Peace?" The Emperor's eyes blazed with anger. "We are the masters of the galaxy. We do not make peace with primitives. Then we will cease to be masters of anything," Velkar replied quietly. Meanwhile, on Earth, the government was dealing with its own problems. The war had united humanity like never before, but it had also changed them. Humans were becoming more aggressive, more willing to take risks, more chaotic in their thinking. President Matt Johnson met with Admiral Helen Davis and General Roy Mason in the White House. Outside, protests filled the streets. Some people wanted to push the attack and destroy the Zelkarian Empire completely. Others wanted to make peace before the war destroyed both civilizations. "We're winning," General Mason reported, "but we're also losing ourselves. Our people are becoming too comfortable with violence and chaos." "What choice do we have?" Admiral Davis asked. "If we stop fighting now, the Empire will recover and come back stronger." President Johnson looked out the window at the crowds below. "We need to end this war, but we need to end it on our terms. The galaxy needs to see that humans can be peaceful as well as dangerous." The turning point came when Captain Chris Turner's intelligence team discovered the location of the Emperor's personal retreat. It was on a small moon, hidden and heavily defended. Most military leaders would have ignored it as unimportant. The humans saw it as the perfect target. "If we can reach the Emperor himself," Captain Foster explained to Admiral Price, "we can show him that nowhere in his empire is safe from human determination." The mission was almost impossible. The moon was protected by the Empire's most advanced defense systems. Getting close would require flying through energy fields that could destroy any known ship. Landing would mean facing ground defenses that had never been defeated. "So we don't do it the normal way," Engineer Paula Stone said during the planning meeting. "We do it the human way. We do something so crazy that their computers can't even imagine it." The plan they came up with was indeed crazy. Instead of attacking the moon directly, they would crash an empty cargo ship into it while the real assault team rode inside pieces of space debris. The impact would look like an accident, and the team would emerge from the wreckage to complete their mission. Captain Foster led the assault team himself. As their ship broke apart around them, he felt the same mixture of fear and excitement that every human warrior had felt since the beginning of the war. "Remember," he told his team as they prepared to land, "we're not here to kill the Emperor. We're here to show him that human determination can reach anywhere in the galaxy. We're here to prove that his empire's time is over." The landing was rough, but they survived. The Zelkarian guards were completely unprepared for an attack that came from inside a crashed cargo ship. Within hours, Captain Foster's team had taken control of the Emperor's retreat. When Emperor Kethvor found human soldiers in his private chambers, his perfect world view finally shattered completely. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years could not protect even its supreme leader from a handful of determined humans. "Impossible," he whispered, staring at Captain Foster. "Nothing is impossible," Captain Foster replied. "That's what you never understood about humans. We don't accept that anything is impossible. That's why we won." The war was almost over. Emperor Kethivor stared at Captain Dan Foster for a long moment. The human soldier stood calmly in the Emperor's private chamber, surrounded by Zelkarian guards who had surrendered without a fight. Everything the Emperor had believed about order and control was crumbling around him. "You could have killed me," the Emperor said quietly. "Your people could have destroyed our homeworld. Why didn't you?" Captain Foster lowered his weapon. Because that's not who we are. Humans fight when we have to, but we don't enjoy destroying entire civilizations. We want to build something better. Something better? The Emperor's voice was confused. For 3,000 years we have brought order to the galaxy. We have ended wars between primitive species. We have created peace through strength. You created fear, Captain Foster replied. That's not the same thing as peace. Real peace comes when people choose to work together, not when they're forced to obey. 3 days later, a meeting took place that would change the galaxy forever. Emperor Kethvor requested a face-to-face negotiation with the human leadership. The meeting was held on a neutral space station managed by Captain Joe Miller and his diplomatic team. Admiral Helen Davis represented humanity. She had been promoted to Supreme Commander after the successful Mars defense. With her came President Matt Johnson and a team of Earth's best negotiators. They were joined by representatives from the dozens of species that had rebelled against Zelkarian rule. We are prepared to discuss terms of surrender, Emperor Kethvor announced as the meeting began. Around him sat his remaining generals and advisors, their faces showing defeat and confusion. We don't want your surrender, Admiral Davis replied, surprising everyone in the room. We want something much more difficult. We want you to change. The negotiations lasted for weeks. The humans proposed something that had never been tried before in galactic history. Instead of one empire ruling over everyone else, they wanted to create a federation where every species had a voice. Impossible, said General Korthek. How can hundreds of different species work together? They all have different needs, different ways of thinking. There would be constant arguments and conflicts. You're right, said Dr. Alan Ross, one of the human negotiators. There will be arguments. There will be conflicts. That's what makes it work. When people disagree and then find ways to compromise, the solutions they create are stronger than anything one person could think of alone. The Zelkarians struggled to understand this concept. Their entire civilization was based on the idea that order and control created strength. The humans were proposing that chaos and disagreement could be more powerful. Emperor Kethvor spent hours talking privately with Admiral Davis. Your species has defeated us, he said during one of these conversations. By all the laws of galactic history, you should now rule in our place. Why are you giving that power away to a federation? Because power isn't the point, Admiral Davis replied. The point is making life better for everyone. No single species is smart enough to solve all the galaxy's problems alone. But if we work together, combining human creativity with Zelkarian, technology and Andromedan wisdom, and all the other strengths each species brings, we can build something amazing. The turning point came when a young Zelkarian officer named Velhan volunteered to serve on a human ship. He had been studying human tactics and wanted to learn how their unpredictable thinking worked. I don't understand how you make decisions, Velhan told Commander Bill Taylor as they prepared for a joint patrol mission. Your actions seem random, but they always achieve your goals. How is this possible? Commander Taylor smiled. It's not random. It's creative. We look at each situation and try to find new solutions. Sometimes we're wrong and have to try again, but sometimes we discover something that nobody has ever thought of before. The Joint Patrol was humanity's first cooperative mission with former Zelkarian forces. When they encountered pirates attacking a merchant convoy, the two different command styles created something new. The Zelkarian precision combined with human creativity to defeat the pirates without destroying a single ship. Remarkable, Velhan said after the battle. Our computers predicted that this tactic would fail, but it worked perfectly. I am beginning to understand that your chaos has its own kind of order. The Galactic Federation was officially established 6 months after the negotiations began. The signing ceremony took place on New Geneva Station, a massive space structure built jointly by human and Zelkarian engineers working together. Admiral Davis, now the Federation's first Supreme Commander, stood before representatives from over 200 species. Some were former Zelkarian subjects who had won their freedom. Others were independent worlds that had never been conquered. All of them were now equal partners in the new government. Today we start something that has never been tried before, Admiral Davis announced. A government based not on the rule of the strongest, but on the cooperation of all. It won't be easy. We will disagree. We will argue. Sometimes we will fail. But we will face those challenges together. Emperor Kethivor had agreed to serve as an advisor to the new Federation. His people's technology and organizational skills were too valuable to waste. But he was no longer a ruler. He was a partner, working alongside humans and dozens of other species to solve problems none of them could handle alone. The first major test of the new system came when explorers discovered a dangerous anomaly near the galaxy's center. The anomaly was growing larger and could eventually threaten every inhabited world. Under the old system, the Zelkarian Empire would have sent their best scientists to study it alone. Under the new Federation, teams of researchers from every species worked together. Human creativity suggested new approaches. Zelkarian technology provided precise measurements. Andromedan philosophers offered different ways of thinking about the problem. Together, they found a solution that no single species could have discovered. The final scene of this great change took place on New Geneva Station's observation deck. Children from dozens of different species played together while their parents watched. Human children taught alien games to their new friends. Zelkarian children learned to appreciate the beauty of unpredictable play. Commander Bill Taylor stood next to Velhan, who had become his closest friend and partner. They watched the children play and talked about the future. "Do you think it will last?" Velhan asked. "This federation of ours?" "It'll last as long as we remember that our differences make us stronger," Bill replied. "The moment we start thinking that one way is always best, we'll fall apart. But as long as we keep learning from each other, we can handle anything the galaxy throws at us." In the distance, new exploration ships were launching into unknown regions of space. The crews were mixed, with humans and Zelkarians and dozens of other species working side by side. They were heading into the unknown not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in the greatest adventure the galaxy had ever seen. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and humanity had shown the galaxy that strength came not from control, but from the courage to embrace chaos and find order within it.